You were told to save 6 months of expenses before you invest anything. You did it. And while you were doing that, you got poorer. Not because you did something wrong, because the advice itself is outdated and expensive. Let me show you what I mean. You save $20,000, you put it in a high-yield savings account. You feel responsible, safe. That account pays you, let's say 4% interest. That's $800 a year. Inflation over the last few years, anywhere from 5% to 8%. So your money is losing value while sitting there doing exactly what it was told to do. You followed the rule made you poorer. And here's the thing, the 6-month emergency fund rule, it came from a different economy. One where savings accounts paid 5% or more, inflation was predictable, job loss meant maybe 3 months of searching. That version of America, it retired before you could. Now, interest rates barely keep up, inflation is volatile, job searches take longer, and if you do lose your job, you're probably not staying in the same city anyway. So what exactly are you saving for? Let me give you an example. 2020, you have $25,000 saved, you're proud of it, you've been building it for years. Your friend. She has $5,000 saved, and she puts $20,000 into an index fund. By 2024, your $25,000 is worth maybe $26,500, her investment. Close to $35,000. She took on risk, you played it safe. She's $10,000 richer than you. Look, I'm not saying these are exact numbers for everyone, but the pattern, it's real. And you both had emergencies, you both survived. Now I'm not saying don't have any emergency fund. I'm saying the amount you're told to keep, and the place you're told to keep it, doesn't make sense anymore, not in this economy. Because here's what nobody tells you, cash is not neutral. Holding cash is a position, it's a bet that liquidity is worth more than growth. And for some people, that bet makes sense. But for most middle-class people, you're not rich enough to keep that much money doing nothing. Think about it. If you're wealthy, you have access to credit, you have assets you can borrow against, you have a network that can float you. If you're wealthy, liquidity is convenience. But if you're middle class, liquidity is fear. It's the fear that one bad month destroys you, one car repair, one medical bill, one layoff. It's staying at a job you hate because you can't afford a gap in paychecks. And that fear, it's expensive. Because while you're hoarding cash to feel safe, inflation is taxing you, opportunity cost is taxing you. Your caution is a luxury you can't afford. And here's the part that really frustrates me. The people giving this advice? Mainstream financial gurus, the talking heads on YouTube, the best-selling authors. They're not wrong because they're malicious. They're wrong because they're old. They're giving you advice from 1995, when savings accounts mattered, when pensions existed, when wages kept up with productivity. That world doesn't exist anymore. But the advice, still here, still repeated, still taught in every personal finance book. And millions of people are following it, getting poorer, slowly, responsibly. Now let me tell you what makes this even worse. The same financial experts who tell you to keep 6 months in cash, they're invested, their money is working. They have diversified portfolios, real estate, business income. They can afford to keep cash on hand because they have other assets growing. But they're giving you, the person living paycheck to paycheck, advice designed for someone with their level of security. It's like a person with a spare car telling you to walk everywhere to save on gas. The advice isn't wrong for them, it's wrong for you. And nobody mentions that part. Think about the psychology here for a second. When wealthy people keep cash, it's strategic, it's for opportunities, for when a good investment appears. When middle-class people keep cash, it's defensive, it's for disasters, for when everything falls apart. Same action, completely different mindset, completely different outcome. The wealthy are positioning, the middle class are protecting. And protection, without the resources to back it up, just keeps you stuck. My name is Cashford, and I spend way too much time thinking about why financial advice sounds so reasonable until you actually do the math. If you're someone who's been doing everything right and still feeling like you're falling behind, I guess subscribe if you want more of this, and thumbs up if I'm not completely crazy here. So what do you do instead? I'm not saying put your emergency fund in crypto or GameStop or whatever. I'm saying the 6-month rule is arbitrary. Maybe you need 3 months, maybe you need 2. Maybe you keep $5,000 liquid and the rest goes somewhere it can actually grow. Because here's the reality, if you lose your job, you're not living off savings for 6 months anyway. You're cutting expenses immediately, you're picking up gig work, you're moving in with family, you're doing whatever it takes. The idea that you'll just calmly withdraw from savings while maintaining your lifestyle for half a year. That's a fantasy, a very expensive fantasy. And look, I get why this advice exists. It's designed to protect you from yourself, from impulsive decisions, from panic. But it's also designed for a version of the economy that doesn't exist. And at some point, protection becomes a trap. Here's another thing that bothers me about this. The emergency fund advice treats all emergencies like they're the same. But they're not. A $500 car repair. That's one kind of emergency. Losing your job, that's a completely different emergency. And the weird thing is, cash helps with the first one, but it barely helps with the second. Because if you lose your job, $5,000 buys you the same amount of time as $25,000, about 2 months, maybe 3 if you're really cutting back. After that, you need income, not savings. So why are you optimizing for the catastrophic scenario when the smaller emergencies are what actually happen? You're basically paying a huge opportunity cost for a solution that doesn't even solve the big problem. It's like buying flood insurance when you live on a mountain. Here's what nobody wants to say out loud. The emergency fund advice, it keeps you out of the market. It keeps you liquid, it keeps you safe, it keeps you broke. Because while you're sitting on cash, the people who are building wealth, they're taking calculated risks, they're invested, they're letting compound interest do the work. And the gap between you and them, it gets wider every year. Not because you're irresponsible, because you followed the rules. And here's the cruel irony. The longer you wait to invest, the more you need that emergency fund. Because you're not building wealth, you're not creating a buffer through asset growth, you're staying in the same place. So you feel like you need more cash, which keeps you out of the market longer, which makes you feel like you need even more cash. It's a cycle and it's expensive. The people who break out of it, they take the risk earlier. They accept being slightly less liquid in exchange for growth. And 5 years later, they have both. The investments have grown enough that they could liquidate a small portion if needed. They didn't choose between safety and growth, they just sequenced it differently. They got uncomfortable earlier when the stakes were lower, and now they're more comfortable than the people who played it safe. So here's my question. If the advice you were given keeps you safe but poor, is it really good advice? Or is it just old advice?